You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on AngryMarks.com with Peter H. and Stevie J. Find them on Twitter at HardcoreCDN and at AngryMarks. And now, for all the news, reviews, and interviews in mixed martial arts, it's time for Glove Up or Shut Up from AngryMarks.com.
And welcome everybody to another episode of Glove Up or Shut Up right here at AngryMarks.com. My name is Peter H. I'm joined once again by my co-host from Omaha, Nebraska, Stevie J.
Peter, this might be just about the busiest 24 hours we've ever had in this entire history of doing this on AngryMarks.com, and that's saying something.
We've been on some marathon shows in the past, and this one might break it.
Let's try not to. Let's try to get through all this news as fast as we can. Let's start with Anderson Silva.
Yeah, this is just breaking as we're recording this. Anderson Silva has pulled out of UFC 198 due to an abdominal injury, and it looks like he might need gallbladder surgery.
Yeah, it's pretty serious, so understandable that he would not try to do anything that would even come remotely close to fighting under those kind of circumstances. That would be risking your life, quite literally, more so than just the normal amount of fighting risk that you take.
It's, if it's surgery indeed, I can't imagine the turnaround time is short.
No, he could be out a year, and he's already nearing the tail end of his career at this point, so being on the shelf for another year might just put him on the shelf for good.
Yeah, no, it's, at his age, man, this sucks.
It does suck, but you know what doesn't suck? The fact that he knows about it before he gets in there and gets in a fight with Uriah Hall. Better to find this out now than have you, at some sort of kick that would damage you internally when you're already in danger to begin with. This is the time to find out right here and right now and not get in there and take a very damaging blow that could do a lot worse than anything you get under the knife.
And each time this happens, it sucks. When it's in your own hometown?
I know.
Man, that sucks.
Well, look at it this way. They stacked this card with so much Brazilian talent that even though it's going to be a bummer, those people are going to be like, well, we're praying for Anderson Silva. We want him to be healthy. But look at all these other guys we get to see. It's not like they're going to be let down when they still get fights with the heavyweight champion of the world, Fabricio Werdum, Shogun Rua, Damian Maia. The list goes on and on.
Now, obviously Hall will get some type of compensation for this.
You would think so. I'm sure he'll get his appearance money. He won't get his win bonus, but he'll get something.
Now, do you think it's a case where... Actually, you know what? No, they won't put a replacement fight. It's way too soon.
Way too late, you mean?
Oh, way too late, yeah. It's way too... past the point of no return on this card.
Yeah. And again, it's not like this card suffers that much. You got Werdum, Jacare, Belfort, Shogun Rua, Damian Maia. You got a who's who going all the way down to the fact that Rogério Nogueira is on the prelims on Fight Pass. That's how much Brazilian talent they put on this card.
Yeah, well, we'll get to UFC 198. We'll do a whole breakdown of this card. But we've got lots of news to get to. And before we talk the big potential news coming out of today's developments, we do have to update our listeners on a story from last week, unfortunately.
You mean the story about Jordan Parsons?
Yes.
Well, you can't call somebody dying any way there's any possibility that that news gets better because it's already as horrible as it can be. But if you want to try to call this good news, then you can say good news that they caught the guy who ran him over.
That's where I was going. They have someone in custody, and let's just say he was known to the authorities.
At least 6 citations for reckless, dangerous, excessive driving. He'd had his license pulled multiple times. This This guy was a public menace and was apparently going, unconfirmed, but going like 120 miles an hour when he hit him.
Yeah, it was, they he went to a car, like a repair shop to fix the damage, and they're like, no.
The shop was owned by his own family, like his uncle or his aunt or something, and they refused to do the work. They knew they'd be committing a felony, and his own family wouldn't help him.
So he hid the car in a storage facility for 2 days until someone spotted the car, and called the cops.
Right. Well, they'd put out multiple public bulletins on Twitter, on local media, everywhere they could, saying, have you seen this car? A 2012 to 2013 Silver Range Rover. The driver's side rear view mirror will be missing. There will be visible damage to the front bumper and headlight. They knew what they were looking for. It was only a matter of time.
Yeah, it's, I mean, we don't know. We don't have a court date. I don't believe it has one been announced yet. He is in custody right now.
Yeah, that's the only thing I care about is the son of a bitch that did this is behind bars. Where it goes from here doesn't matter, but the guy is already where he deserves to be for killing someone.
We'll keep you guys updated when we know more details on court dates. Maybe a plea deal. I don't know. Whatever the courts say.
And if you notice we're not saying this a-hole's name, it's because we don't want to give him any kind of, like, this is not...
publicity.
Yeah, you don't get a trophy for this. You killed an innocent person. You don't get your name out there. It's, if you want to read the report on MMA Media, you can see what his name is, but I'm not going to say it here.
But we do want to say rest in peace, Jordan Parsons.
Amen. And so has every single fighter from Bellator 154 that I've talked to about it. They've all expressed their condolences. It was really heartbreaking talking to Phil Davis about it because Parsons had trained at Alliance MMA for a year and a half, so they actually knew each other really well.
So let's transition. As I said, lots of news to get to today.
Well, we don't have to transition away from Bellator 154 just yet because I've got breaking news about that card.
Absolutely, go for it.
Sergey Kharitonov is withdrawing from Bellator 154 for, well, we don't really know what for. It's an illness of some sort. What that illness is hasn't been disclosed, but serious enough that he doesn't think he'll be ready to fight on Saturday night. So it's no longer a 5-fight card because they've tried and tried and tried and tried to make this a 5-fight card between what happened to Jordan Parsons and Josh Thompson withdrawing due to an injury, and they've run out of ways to scramble. Their end game now is it's a 4-fight card for Spike TV. Everybody just has to deal with it.
Well, I want to know what happened here. I know it hasn't come out yet, but I want to know the details. Is it something we should be worried about? Is it like a minor thing? Is it totally major? Is it career threat? Like, there has to be something here.
There's nothing. There's a tweet from Brett Okamoto of ESPN. There's a confirmation that I got from the publicist at Bellator that the details of the tweet were accurate, and they're having a 4-fight card. That's what they told me. Whatever the illness is, nobody is saying. Kharitonov isn't saying. Anybody from his team that knows isn't saying. If it comes out, it comes out, and if not, maybe he's just got the flu. Maybe that's why he doesn't feel the need to say anything. What are you going to do?
As I always say on this show, only time will tell.
Well, as you always say on the show, never leave it to the judges, and illness has certainly done that because they won't be able to judge anything now that he's ill.
All right, so going on to the next story. I'm going to say it this way. Dana White has said, quote, today that the UFC is not for sale.
That's not exactly true.
However, Dana White has said stuff one day and completely changed course the next day. Like, when he said, we're not buying Strikeforce, they bought Strikeforce.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know what he's doing. He's doing his role, basically. Until there's something concrete, they're not for sale.
Well, there is something concrete now.
There is something. There are serious negotiations right now. It's been revealed that Zuffa is looking to sell the UFC. There's a short list of buyers. And the top name on this list is a China-based group called Wanda Group, I believe it's called.
Right. They
And
own a lot of assets. They're like a $35 billion company. They own a major soccer team, or I should say football, for our European friends. They've got their hands in a lot of pie.
so the thing about this story is that why would the Fertittas want to sell? And one thing I've heard is that they've always wanted to buy an NFL team, and by doing this, by selling the UFC, I guess they'll be able to do this.
That's a possibility. Or they could just be tired of owning it and just be like, hey, let's cash in. We bought this for $20 million. We can get a few billion and we can retire comfortably. Who cares that it's privately owned? They can really do what they want. There are people who hold a stake in the company, like an investment company in Abu Dhabi has like a 10% share, but it's all privately held. They're not on the stock market or anything.
No, they're not. And my next question is, Stevie, does Dana White keep his job?
I think if you're buying UFC and you want to keep things running smoothly, you keep Dana White around as the president and you keep paying him the same amount that he was already earning, because Dana White, good, bad, and ugly, as we've discussed often enough on this show, but for all those things, he is the public face of UFC. He's the guy at the Q&As. He's the guy doing post-fight press conferences. He's the guy that represents the face of the company when you don't talk to one fighter, when you talk to the president of UFC, and he's the buck stops here guy. That's the guy everybody thinks of. Then you want to at least continue that lineage short term. Long term, I don't know, but I'd say if you're buying UFC, you keep him around. Just like when UFC bought Strikeforce, they kept Scott Coker around. It was the same kind of thing.
So you don't think they'll want to bring in their own people to run the show and maybe keep Dana White as like a figurehead of the promotion?
Dude, that's what I'm saying. In time, they could make any change they want, but if you're buying it right off the bat, you don't want to disrupt everything in the system that's already working. I mean, UFC is making money hand over fist. They're flush with cash. Their revenue stream is really good right now. And you don't want to come in and start pulling people and switching people out. You just want to leave that structure in place and keep it going until you make some decisions that are strategically sound.
Now, if you put on your speculation hat for a second, the way they dealt with the Conor McGregor situation, how quietly the UFC did this and basically laid out the law and said, no, Conor, you're not on UFC 200. We pulled you. You're not on the card. And the way they were very decisive about it. Do you think this show of force was
Are you reading Front Row Brian's Twitter? Is that what you're doing here?
No. I was just thinking you want to look good in front of the... Don't give me that.
Well, if you're not, you're freaking a mind reader or something, because Brian said the exact same thing on Twitter tonight when this story came out. He's like, wow, it's amazing how that Conor thing played out considering this news. Like,
oh, it's a coincidence. I think the same thing. It's awfully convenient.
It's not a coincidence. I think that's his implication. I think that's your implication. There's no coincidence here that they were laying down the law to Conor McGregor because they know that there's a buyer's market out there for UFC, and they want people to know there are people in charge of this organization who don't take shit from their fighters, and they're going to run it like a solid ship and keep it sailing on.
You didn't think that same thought when UFC was very heavy-handed?
Well, I thought UFC was being heavy-handed because it made sense for them to be heavy-handed and show that to the fighters. I wasn't thinking about buyers of the company. I was just thinking they were laying down the law to set an example, like, you do what you're obligated to in your contract, and if you don't, we're not going to book you.
I'll admit, I thought when I first saw it when they were heavy-handed, I thought they were towing to the sponsors, like the Reebok people, or there was something we weren't seeing. Like you kind of see one thing on one side, but you're seeing what the left hand is doing, but you're not seeing what the right hand is doing. And it was like something, I'm not seeing the entire puzzle here when I saw that by the UFC, that decision to become very not like themselves, if you know what I mean.
Frankly, all I ever thought was they were showing Conor McGregor that he's not bigger than UFC, which...
No one's bigger than UFC.
Well, except the company that buys UFC, which would by necessity have to be bigger than UFC.
Money talks and bullshit walks, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's a wild news day, and it only keeps getting wilder. What else do we have, Peter?
Well, I'm still thinking about this Uriah Hall-Anderson Silva fight, to be honest, because the way this will break down, I mean, this was, in a sense, for Uriah Hall, this was supposed to be like his big fight. I mean, this fight puts him on the map for the rest of his career.
Well, it's essentially the same thing that happened when Bisping fought Silva. Bisping said as much, like, this is the fight I wanted my whole life, and now I got it, and there's no moment that could top this moment for me right here, right now. I'm sure Uriah Hall probably had to feel the same way about fighting a legend like Anderson the Spider Silva. He had to think that was the biggest moment of his career, the fight he had been dreaming of his whole life.
But I do want to segue to another fight, but this one just got announced today. It's for UFC 200. It's going to be TJ Dillashaw and Rafael Assunção too.
Yeah, it's interesting because I would say the winner of that fight would be right up near the top of the list to challenge Dominic Cruz.
Great fight on paper, and we've seen this fight before, so let's have it.
Absolutely. And speaking of rankings and ranking implications, well, a few people moved up and a few people moved down this week. Not a whole ton of movement, but Kyoji Horiguchi moved up one spot to 4 at flyweight. Ian McCall moved down 1 to 5. And in lightweights, Bobby Green moved up 1 to 12. Ally Akinta moved down 1 to 13. The most action, as you would expect, was in the heavyweight division.
We'll get there, yep.
Oh, well, you want to save that? We'll get to that when we talk about the show from Saturday/Sunday. I'll wait on that one then.
Yeah, we'll wait on that one because that's a big jump and there's some discussion there, that's for sure.
Yes, but as far as what this all meant to Uriah Hall, he was number 10 and Anderson Silva was number 5. So besides the fact that would be a dream fight for him for his career, that was also a huge ranking fight at middleweight.
Does Silva fall down the rankings now?
Well, you can, over time, move down the list due to inactivity, which was always your pet peeve about Rashad Evans, but eventually just fighting finally caught up to him, and losing a few fights moved him down anyway, so you got what you wanted one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Silva staying at that position if he's out for another year.
Probably not. Oh, by the way, when I started talking about rankings, we initially led into it with Dillashaw and Assunção. At this moment, Dillashaw is number 1 behind Cruz, and Assunção is number 5.
Wow.
Just wanted to put that out there so people would consider the implications of Assunção basically getting to jump the entire line if he beats Dillashaw.
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely be a pole vault maneuver if he does that, so.
And
but,
of course, if TJ wins that fight, you can't deny him the rematch with Dominic at that point.
Yeah, but, okay. Stay with me on this one, because it sounds a little weird. I can't believe I'm saying this.
You're gonna say he doesn't deserve it because he already lost once to Assunção?
No. No, I'm going a different way on this.
Oh, alright, go ahead.
You just won a very tough, hard-hitting battle, and now you fight Dominic Cruz.
You're saying that's not a reward? Well, it's not like he got smoked by Dominic Cruz. He lost a split decision, so if you're...
I know, but Cruz is a fighter who I think is on his victory lap right now. He is the champion. He came off a few years off due to injuries and what have you. I think his title defense against either one of these fighters will be very telling if we have this Cruz that is dominant and is a worthy champion and all this stuff, or does this feel-good story of the guy who came back after blowing out his knee and all that stuff, does the story end defending the title against Dillashaw or Ascenso in late 2016?
I don't know. I'm saying, based on previous history here, Dillashaw was almost good enough to beat Cruz. There's no reason to think that he couldn't figure that out in a rematch and get the title back. Or, since we already know that Assunção was capable of beating Dillashaw in an equally close fight that was also a split decision, there's no reason to think maybe he can figure out Cruz as well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about this fight at UFC 200, it's going to be a war. I mean, I'm going to have to really think about this fight because I could see it going either way right now.
Yeah, it's going to take some time to figure this one out, but I can say with a fair degree of certainty that whoever wins that fight, I want to see the fight with Dominic Cruz.
There's so much news this week with, Zuffa and Bellator, and just everything all at once. I almost wish we went back to the days with a commercial break.
Hey, if you need a drink or something, go ahead and take one. I'll just edit a break in for you.
No, because somebody asked me on private message about what happened to the commercials.
Who asked you that?
Oh, a friend of mine. A friend of mine from the radio program.
Oh, all right. Well, hey, do you want to talk about this UFC Fight Night?
Go for it.
All right. The main event of UFC Fight Night in Rotterdam of the Netherlands was Alistair Overeem and Andrei Arlovski. This was one of those fights where we used to see Overeem just go out there, swing wildly, blow his gas tank in the first round, and then get crushed with a shot that he couldn't come back from. But this new Overeem that has been touted and hyped so much by Jackson Winklejohn and all the people that know him, it really is showing in his last few fights. He's on a little bit of a streak now that's put him right into contention for heavyweight title shot, and he's done it by being patient, by waiting, by taking his time. And he doesn't go out there and try to get the wins right away. He'll wait till the second or the third round now. And in that first round, he was being so patient that it almost looked like Arlovski was going to catch him because he got him up against the fence and just started unloading. But Overeem kept his hands up, didn't take any damage, got away, reset. It's like, okay, that didn't hurt him. That probably slowed down Arlovski because he burned a lot of his gas tank. So now Arlovski was in the old Overeem role of burning himself out, trying to get something too quick, and then not being able to catch up with it later on when Overeem caught him with a big shot.
Now, do you think this is, like, you said this is the new Overeem. Do you think we're finally seeing the maturity of the fighter, or is this basically just instituting a new game plan here?
There's been times where Alistair Overeem looked like the guy that we've seen in these fights with Roy Nelson, Junior Dos Santos, and now Arlovski. We have seen glimpses of this guy in the past. We've seen it when he was in the Strikeforce Heavyweight Tournament. We saw it even earlier than that when he won the Strikeforce Heavyweight Championship way back at the beginning of Strikeforce. But inconsistency has always been his problem. Like, he could go on a 2 or 3 fight run and then he'd lose to somebody that you just looking at him would think he would blow through. You know, I don't even know that it's not necessarily the same Overeem he always has been. It's just he's learned not to make the mental mistakes that used to cost him in the past.
Now they're saying that Overeem is definitely in contention. Basically, he's almost guaranteed himself a title shot, right?
Well, yeah, he moved up to number 2 in the heavyweight rankings. He is right behind Kane now.
Now, they're saying if this fight happens, it won't be before 205. So that tells me...
Hold on. who are they, and why are we listening to them? Who are they?
Well, no, I'm not. I'm just saying.
Is this the collective MMA we? I mean, where is this they coming from?
It's not so much they. It's more. I'm trying not to do a long-winded speech here, but when I say they, I mean if you're in Overeem's camp, right? You finally are in a position where you want to have a full fight camp. You want to make sure your fighter is 100% going into this fight, correct? So by they, I'm thinking either Overeem's camp or UFC or whoever. They don't want to put Overeem in the opportunity unless he's good to go 100%. So UFC 205, 206, you don't want to have him fight too early. I mean, right now we're middle of May. Give a 2-month fight camp. I mean, you might put that into the year.
So your they is basically a collusion between Overeem's camp and UFC's executives and matchmakers. Like, they, meaning both Overeem's team and UFC officials, would not want to risk him fighting again too soon.
No, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. I think when it says they, when I'm saying they, and I'm going to borrow a line from wrestling here, it's best for business. Also, you got to think, what if Werdum gets into what if he gets into a war with Miocic? Do you want to fight a champion who's on 100%, or do you want to fight him at his best?
At his best, I would think.
I mean, you could say, yeah, I came into the training camp with a bum shoulder or something, but I signed the contract and I want to fight the fight. Well, no, it kind of taints the victory a little bit. You want to fight the guy at his best. Now, what I would do is I would put Overeem in Brazil, front row, watching the main event.
Sure, why not?
You know what I mean? Have him cut to the between rounds, show his reaction. You know what I mean? See if he's cheering for someone. See if he's fighting for the underdog or fighting for the favorite here, because we'll talk about that fight later on in the show, but you got to think he's got a very big vested interest in this fight, because I don't know who you'd want to fight if you're over him right now.
Well, nobody other than the champion. I mean, you got history with the champion. You've fought him a couple of times already. You want to go back to that well and see if you can put another one over on him, or if you can put another one over on you. There's not really much else that makes sense.
It's not like he's going to wear an I Heart Miocic t-shirt.
No, I suppose not.
But I think maybe, sometimes if you're a fighter, anyone who's been in any type of sport can attest to this. If someone keeps beating you and you have another opportunity to avenge that loss and to, finally climb that hill, so to speak, don't you want to take that shot?
I suppose so, but I'm not...
Look at Miocic Tate.
Yeah, but as much as we can draw out that conversation with hypotheticals, we're never going to get through the rest of this card if we don't get back to it.
You're absolutely right. Let's go on to the co-main event from the Netherlands.
Yeah, and we said this was a loser leaves town fight. I think we got our answer. Bigfoot Silva is the one leaving town, because it only took 16 seconds for Stefan Struve to destroy him.
Yeah, it was, how do I say it? Steve, you'll like this. It was like those telephone booth machines from Doctor Who. Destroy.
Are you talking about the Daleks?
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure what your example was there, but they don't say destroy, they say exterminate. He did exterminate him. That knee just crushed the spirit out of him, and then everything else that came after that was almost academic.
Now, I have a question for you. If you ever taught a class, Stevie, on social media, what is one of the very first rules of social media?
Don't tweet after midnight.
I was thinking more, don't feed the trolls.
Don't tweet drunk.
Yeah, don't tweet drunk. Bigfoot Silva read the comments and tweets that he got from some of these haters after this loss. tweeted out the address of the gym he's at. I work out here Monday through Saturday. Bring your shin guards and your mouthpiece and your jockstrap, and let's go. Let's do this.
Well, how many guys that are comparable in size to him do you really think are going to take him up on that offer? That's an easy one for him to get away with, because there are very few people that are the size of Bigfoot Silva.
Oh man, I saw this and I was like, oh, this is not a good idea. And then, right away he tweeted out the apology.
Yeah, well, that's fine, but, if you meet people in everyday daily life, he can probably beat every single one of them to a pulp if they challenged him. But this is not everyday life. This is the UFC octagon where the most elite and vicious of fighters are going to compete, and he is not elite or vicious anymore. Post-TRT, he is neither of those things.
The official time, 16 seconds.
Yes, indeed. And one of many quick fights we had on the main card. In fact, only one went the distance. So why don't we move on to Gunnar Nelson and Albert Einstein Tumanov?
Yeah, there's no real fights on this card that put you to sleep.
No, but he did put his opponent to sleep with a rear naked choke. Gunny wins at 3:15 of the second round.
It was a great choke there.
Yeah, and this fight could have gone either way up to that point. I'm not saying Tumanov would have ultimately won a decision, but it was not a wrap by any means until Gunnar got on his back and choked him out. That, he took the fight. Whether the fight was going his way or not, he took it at that point.
Well, speaking of a war, this women's fight before this was amazing as well.
Well, the amazing thing about it was the crowd reaction to Jermaine Durandamy. She has never been that over, and she may never be that over again. She was, much like Alistair Overeem, she was the conquering hero on this card.
And she definitely delivered.
3:46 of the first round. Much like the Stefan Struve fight, this one involved a knee that just absolutely crushed Anna Elmos, and everything after that was academic. Sometimes these really well-placed knee strikes can just completely ruin you.
I mean, I would love to see like a camera where the judges are, like just focused on them, just to get their reaction when that knee landed.
Honestly, when you look at the history of mixed martial arts and you look at moves that end a fight, just completely change the momentum of a fight one way or the other, you have to look at liver kicks and knees to the body, because those two things are not often thought of as being the tool in an MMA fighter's arsenal. Everybody focuses on getting a submission, getting an armbar, getting a choke, hitting an uppercut, hitting a shot behind the jaw to the ear. Everybody thinks about those things, but you look at knees to the body and kicks to the liver, and those end fights as fast as anything.
There's an old fight on one of the old Spike TV shows. This guy was, I forget the fight, you might remember the name, I've seen way too many fights now. But it was, one of those Hard Rock Casino, I think it was in Florida, and the guy was losing the fight, and he was on his butt, he was trying to just get up from being knocked down, and the guy was going in for the kill, and one quick punch to the liver, and the guy kind of crumpled, and the guy took victory from the jaws of defeat.
That's
all it takes. One quick liver shot, boom. It's it's a hard bullseye to hit, but if you hit it, you win.
Dude, just look at the fight between Rafael Cavallo and Brandon Halsey. In that first round, the Bull was just taking him apart with takedowns in the first round, and seemed like he was on his way to cruising to a victory, and then one kick in the second round, and he folded like a house of cards. Once Cavallo landed that liver kick, he was done.
I think either I sent you, I think it was you that sent me the message, and it was all caps. Did you just see that?
Yeah. If you love mixed martial arts, if you love combat sports, and you see a liver kick like that, it's exciting as hell, because it just, you don't want somebody to be crippled or seriously maimed for life, so it's one of those kind of things, like, it's horrifying, but at the same time, you know they're going to eventually recover from it. It's just, for that second when it lands, the off switch is hit. You're done. You're
Yeah,
not...
we're not talking Silva when he snapped his leg. We're not talking that severity.
Right, but it's just one of those beautiful ending moments, because like you said, the precision of it is something to behold. You have to target it just right, and when you land it, that is something special to see.
All right, let's move on to Krylov and Barrasso.
Yes, indeed. And this is another fight that did not go the distance, and this is another fight that ended via rear naked choke. And I would even go so far as to say if it gone the full 3 rounds, who knows would have won it. But Nikita Krylov emerges the victor on this day at 3:11 of round 2.
I don't think he's at rankings yet, but keep winning like this and you will be.
He is 4 fights in a row now. Cody Donovan, Stanislav Nedkov, Rogerio de Lima, and Francimar Barroso. So, yeah, he's on the... Actually did break in. Let me stand corrected. He is number 13.
Oh, he did get in. Oh, good for him.
Yeah, he's above Ilir Latifi and Gian Vellante. He breaks in.
Ooh, those are some good names, too.
Yeah.
Who's just above him?
Corey Anderson.
Oh. That's a good fight. I'd like to see that fight.
Yeah, I think I would pay to see that fight, but I believe Corey already has a fight coming up here in very short order, so...
He's got a dance partner already.
Yeah, exactly. So we're getting to that in a little while, but let's move on to Karolina Kowalik and Heather Jo Clark, and it's a unanimous decision for Kowalik. And what did you think, Peter?
I had no problem with this decision.
No, I think the right woman got the win here, but I guess I like Heather Jo Clark in that she's not going to win a fight with somebody like this in a lot of cases, and she'll get an upset win every now and then over somebody like Beck Rawlings. But I just like her toughness in general, because she wasn't going to win this fight, but she went the distance in this fight. She's kind of like... This is a horrible example. She's kind of like that Dawn Fry of the women's division, where she can take a beating, but she won't quit.
Yeah, it's a good fight to watch. I mean, I'm wondering what you do with both fighters after this fight. I mean, it was a good decision. You learn more from a loss, but, I mean, looking at Heather Jo Clark here, she'll learn from this. She'll probably take the Miocic Tate route, take more from the loss, study the tape, and come back stronger.
I think so. And for Kowalik, I got to get better at pronouncing her name, because she's moving up the rankings fast now. She moves up 3 spots to number 7.
Looking at the prelims, Rustam Kabalov beat Chris Wade, not D. Wade like someone told me on Twitter. Not the guy who took layups during the Canadian anthem. That was a unanimous decision for Kabalov. Magnus Sedblad beat Gareth McClellan via TKO. Josh Emmett beat John Tuck via split decision. And Riza Madadi beat Jan Cabral with TKO at 156 of the 3rd round.
I actually want to go into the Emmett fight a little bit, because he won the first 2 rounds pretty decisively. I think he thought in the 3rd round he could cruise, but there was a problem. He broke a finger in his hand.
Oh, yeah.
And John Tucker realized it, and he knew that Emmett was trying to avoid getting into exchanges, so Tuck just started chasing him down and nearly caught him.
I don't use the word gnarly. It's not a word I use in my vernacular very much, but, that was not good.
It's kind of like what happened to John Jones' toe.
Oh, you had to go there. Oh.
Well, is there a better example?
Geez, you had to bring up John Jones, really? Oh.
Sorry, really the best example I could think of. I can't come up with a better one. And as for the other pre-televised fights, Horiguchi dominated Siri, really not much to say about that.
Oh.
Edwards dominated Dominic Waters. I was a little surprised. I thought Waters would be more game than that. And Sasaki surprised me, because he was a very late replacement fighter here, and he choked out Willie Gates.
Yeah, 3:30 of the 2nd round.
So very impressive on Ulka Sasaki's part. If you're going to come in on late notice, that's the way to do it. Come in and get the job done. And in fact, that was his first fight at flyweight too. So that makes it even more impressive. Like, he made the weight cut on short notice, and he won the fight.
Now let's talk about Invicta FC 17.
Yes, indeed. Main event?
At 2. Go ahead.
I was going to say the main event was Tanya Evinger and Schneider.
Yeah, Colleen Schneider, and Evinger wins via unanimous decision. Basically, 2 rounds gave her a 50-44 score, and one judge went 49-45.
Yeah, Schneider, aside from the fact that she wore a Star Trek uniform, really didn't do anything remarkable in this fight.
I knew, for some reason, when I saw that, I was like, he's going to bring this up on the show.
I saw it during the video package before the fight even began, and I thought I was seeing things, and I put out a tweet because there were several of us that were live tweeting during the show. I'm like, am I imagining things, or was she wearing a Star Trek uniform in that photo? And then she came out wearing the uniform. I'm like, okay, that wasn't a coincidence. That's her actual fight attire.
You think that validates her geek card for the year?
I think she can get booked at any sci-fi convention on the basis of wearing that.
Well, she didn't materialize a victory here.
No, she was just woman-handled, I would say, is the best way to put it, because, you know, Evinger, we've talked to her before, we know her strength is wrestling and control and just out-muscling her opponents, and she did exactly that here. Schneider, the best thing Schneider could do would be to stall takedowns. She would try to sprawl and block, but it didn't work. It just, eventually, time after time, she would get overpowered. It would take a while, but it would happen. It was inevitable that sooner or later, Evinger would take her down again.
Now, we did have one other fight of note here we should talk about, and that is Angela Hill beating Livia Renata Souza via split decision to win the strawweight title.
Yeah, this is a completely different Angela Hill than we saw on The Ultimate Fighter. And the thing that I've known about Souza for a while, and that I really expected Souza to do in this fight, is that when she gets in a dogfight and things aren't necessarily going her way, she's very mentally tough and can find a way to get in position for a submission and still finish a fight. And I honestly, even up to the 5th round, I kept thinking sooner or later she's going to put one on Angela Hill. She's going to find a way to do it, because that's her track record. I mean, 7 by submission, 1 by knockout, 1 by decision. But Angela Hill was the one woman that she couldn't submit.
All right, so that's Invicta. We do have a 1FC show this past...
Wait. You can't go on. I'm not allowing it. We have to talk about Charmaine Tweet. That was a scintillating, spinning back fist. When you say there ain't nothing sweet about Charmaine Tweet, you ain't kidding. Watch the replay. Turn on your Fight Pass right now if you're listening to us, and watch her land this shot. It was poetic.
It was pretty sweet, I have to give you that.
Yeah, Charmaine Tweet landed the sweetest knockout of the whole show.
Someone even told me, do you remember the Shoni Carter knockout? I'm like, yes. Watch this. I'm like, I've seen it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and one other finish that I'll talk about from this card, Megan Anderson just basically overwhelmed Amanda Bell at the end of the 1st round. It was not allowed to continue to the 2nd, and rightfully so. Megan Anderson...
Was it a concussion? What was the official reason here?
I believe the doctor stopped it, or it was ruled a TKO at the end of the 1st round, but either way, there was just... she was already concussed and would have continued to have been concussed. Bell got her bell rung, for lack of a better term. There was no continuing from the onslaught that Megan Anderson was putting on her. So, keep an eye out for this girl. She's 6-2. She's looking better in every fight now. Megan Anderson is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. Now, the reason I want to talk about 1FC real quick, 1FC, there were 2 title fights on this show. Angela Lee beat Mii Yamaguchi via unanimous decision to win the first ever women's atomweight title. So that's pretty cool. And Roger Gracie is your new light heavyweight champion in ONE FC.
All right, well, congratulations to both of them.
Roger Gracie beating Mikhail Pasternak in the inaugural fight for this belt. He won via arm triangle choke. It only took him 2:13. When I first saw this, Stevie, I had to look at the video again just to make sure I saw it. It's like, wow, a Gracie won a title with a choke. You don't say.
Yeah, I know.
If it was a TKO or a knockout, I might have been like, what? But, it's like, okay, I'm not that surprised. It's like these guys are taught this in kindergarten, for crying out loud.
Right, but you say that like there's one Gracie family with one Gracie lineage. In truth, there's like 10 different descendants of Helio Gracie that went on to form their own Gracie Jiu-Jitsu camps and schools. So it's not like there's one Gracie and there's one Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. There's a whole lot of heirs to the throne.
So what you're telling me is that over the weekend you're going to do the Gracie family tree?
If I took the time to do the Gracie family tree, it would take years off my life. I would just tell you to go read a book by our friend Jonathan Snowden or something written by Paul Lazenby. They could lay it out a lot quicker than I could.
And I want to give a shout out to Jonathan Snowden. He was the first reporter to break the story about the Zuffa potential sale.
Yes, indeed. Big up to him. Good friend of ours at the show and always seems to be in the know.
Absolutely. But for those who don't know, there's a show this weekend.
Yes, indeed. We've hinted at it several times now. UFC 198 in Brazil, and it is heavily stacked with Brazilian talent.
Okay, so Fabricio Werdum, Stipe Miocic, heavyweight title, a fight that you've been wanting to see.
I didn't think there was another possible way for you to change the pronunciation, but you just came up with Stipe. It's Stipe. Trust me, it is. I know. I've met the man. I've talked to him.
It's a gimmick. What can I say?
You live it.
This is a fight I've been wanting to see for a long time now. It's finally here. My question is, does this fight go into round 2?
I can't imagine it. I'm not saying it won't, but I'm seeing these two just, in all likelihood, just trying to take each other's blocks off. I mean, Werdum is going to be super pumped up to be in front of his home country crowd defending the title in Brazil. How thrilled is he going to be about that? And Miocic is known for getting quick knockouts and decisive knockouts and just being a force to be reckoned with if he gets anything on you at any point in the fight early. So why wouldn't he come out there and blitz? And why wouldn't Werdum just try to go right in there toe-to-toe with him and see if he can do the same? After all, he's better known for submissions. He's got 10 out of 20 wins, but he does have 6 knockouts. You can't look past the fact that he would love to get a knockout and finish this fight decisively in Brazil. He wants to, for lack of a better way to put it, he wants to Mark Hunt Stipe Miocic.
I think you gotta think Werdum's a heavy favorite here.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, let's pull up those odds and find out, shall we?
Absolutely.
Yes, entertain the people while I get this to load up.
All right, well, as Stevie is looking for that, let me just put to bed any rumors that Conor McGregor was fighting Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah,
not going to happen.
That was never going to happen. Well, the line is actually pretty close on this one, Peter.
No.
Yeah, I'm not shitting you. Minus 145 for Werdum, plus 125 Miocic. It's close.
Does Vegas know something that I don't?
Well, they might think that if you put one on Verdum's chin, he's going down. Maybe that's
you put anything. Oh, don't give me that. That's it.
Well, I don't agree with them if that's their assessment, because out of 5 losses, he's only been knocked out once. Werdum is not a guy that usually drops to the hands, although Miocic has some pretty ferocious hands.
Werdum is the only person to beat Cain Velasquez, Nogueira, and Fedor, and he tapped them all out.
Exactly. So, I think the odds are a little too close, but I also think when you look at what Miocic has done lately, he deserves some respect, and that's probably what the odds makers are giving him.
I could be wrong. I think it's great he's getting the love and respect from Vegas, but if I was looking at these odds, I would say Werdum is a minus 300 and give Miocic a plus 250.
As I've said once on this show, if we keep going into hypotheticals, we're never getting through everything. No. So I'll just let you have that point and we'll move on.
All right, let's talk about Sanderson. Oh, wait, no, never mind.
No, we're going to talk about Jacare Souza and Vitor Belfort. And this one is a little more decisive in terms of the line.
You got to think Belfort's the favorite here.
No, that's not what I meant by decisive.
Oh.
Jacare is minus 300 and Belfort is plus 250.
Cool.
Honestly, you think about the fact that this is a post-TRT Belfort, even in Brazil where sometimes things seem to happen, but he's probably not getting away with as much as he used to thanks to USADA, and that's playing a factor into the odds here. I would not expect him to come out there and blitz Jacare Souza. I would expect Jacare Souza to take him down, take his back, and make his life hell.
See, when it comes to this fight, Stevie, I mean, I've got Belfort winning this.
Well, you're used to the Belfort hometown thing. You're used to him winning fights in Brazil because he's Belfort and it's Brazil.
Yeah.
But that's not the case here. He's fighting another Brazilian fighter. He doesn't get the automatic Brazil hometown advantage in this one.
Oh, okay. He doesn't get the hometown, but I still like him in this fight.
To be honest, I'm Jacare all the way in this one, and not just because I think Vitor Belfort's a little past his time on the clock here.
You don't think Souza isn't?
No. I'll tell you why. 2 reasons. Souza is 36. He's the younger of the 2 fighters because Belfort is 39. Second of all, I still think Jacare Souza won that fight with Yoel Romero.
Oh, not this again. You still think that?
Hey, not only do I think he won the fight, Romero was busted for cheating. So it doesn't even matter what I think. Defend that. The evidence shows that Romero couldn't even beat him clean.
Yeah, I can't defend a cheater.
No. So, I'm going Jacare all the way here.
All right, let's move on to Christian. Oh, I know this one. It's Cyborg against Smith.
Yeah, and this ain't pretty. This is minus 1,700 to plus 1,100.
Damn.
You gotta think that means this fight's ending in 30 seconds. And if you've ever been to a Chris Cyborg fight live, and I have been to a few, that's not an unreasonable thing to think.
She goes from a highly ranked fighter to fighting a woman who once was a dominatrix, now fighting for UFC.
I'm not sure what you're getting at with that.
It's just, she goes from having freak show fights, then people don't want to fight her, and now she's able to, I don't know, it's always up and down.
It's the air of legitimacy, is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes.
Alright, well, we're gonna see where it goes from here for Cyborg, but first she's gotta beat Leslie Smith, and even though that seems like a given based on the odds, you and I both know that givens based on the odds don't turn out that way all the time.
I'm gonna say this, and pardon me if it sounds crude, but this is her time to shit or get off the pot.
Yeah, she's gotta go out there and be impressive with Leslie Smith, and Leslie Smith is not a cakewalk.
Oh God, she is playing, this is the definition of playing with house money.
Exactly.
Hell, if you're in Vegas and put down $20 just on a whim, why not?
I mean, this is a woman that TKO'd Jessamine Duke, and this is a woman that took a unanimous decision over Ren Nakai. Leslie Smith is tough. She is super tough.
And we always say, like you talked about earlier, one shot to the jaw behind the ear, boom.
Mm-hmm.
It's over. Liver kick, done.
Right.
So I don't want to get
happen.
into a wrestling contest with Cyborg, but
No, but if you got the kind of money to lay a little action on Leslie Smith, just for the shits of it, why not?
hey. And, if someone gets a Leafs jersey out of it, all the better.
I suppose so, but we did mention Corey Anderson earlier in the evening, and here he is facing Shogun Rua in a light heavyweight bout.
Boy, it's almost like the Uriah Hall fight, where this fight it's a big fight for him. It's a name fighter, but he's got to be the underdog.
No, Corey Anderson is the favorite. Minus 240, plus 200. Okay, let's look at the basic.
Yeah, break it down.
I'll break it down for you. I'll break it down for our listeners. First of all, Corey Anderson is a pretty freaking big light heavyweight. He's 6'3" and cuts down to 205, which means he's probably walking around at 230. Who knows? Maybe even 240. This is a big dude. He's strong. He's bull strong. And he's got, with his ability to control a fight with wrestling and land a punch where he gets the opportunity, he's picked up 3 straight wins over John Blachowicz, Fabio Maldonado, and Filthy Tom Lawler, all guys who, at one point or another, were considered top 15. So, 3 quality wins in a row versus Shogun Rua, arguably a legend, a Pride legend, a UFC legend, a guy that's been around forever and done a whole lot of things. You wouldn't think he is only 34 years old. You would actually think, based on how long he's fighting, that he'd be much older than that. But he's only 34 and has already been there and done that, had 33 total fights in his career, and definitely deserves his props. But now you look at his recent record, and it's not stellar. He's got 4 losses in his last 6 fights. The 2 wins, James Tahuna and the previously mentioned Rogerio Nogueira, who is by no stretch of the imagination an elite fighter at this point either. This is not Shogun Rua of, say, winning the light heavyweight title or just destroying everybody in Pride. This is not the guy that beat Overeem, that beat Rampage, so on and so forth. This is the modern era 2016 Shogun Rua who loses fights to Ovince St. Preux and Alexander Gustafsson. This guy is not the elite of the elite anymore.
I don't want to say, like, when it comes to Shogun Rua,
you don't want to go hashtag because Brazil?
Yeah, kind of.
This one, I'm not going to go hashtag because Brazil. I think Corey Anderson will put it on him.
He's probably going to put a hurting on him, that's for sure. There was a story a few weeks ago. Do you know the pitcher for the Mets, Syndergaard?
Yeah, I know the pitch. I know what you're talking about.
He is a Toronto Blue Jays prospect, and Jays traded him away to get R.A. Dickey, okay?
Right, yeah, I know the story.
So a few weeks ago, he was pitching, and the catcher for the Mets took a fastball or a slider that hit the dirt and hit him in the chest, right? And Syndergaard's known for throwing pretty hard, pitching really hard, right?
Yeah, he's got power.
Well, the catcher wears a chain around his neck.
Mm-hmm.
He took, I guess after the game, he was doing interviews or something, and a photographer took a picture of his chest. There was the imprint of the chain on his chest.
Mm-hmm.
That's how hard the ball hit him in the chest after hitting the ground. Yeah. Why I'm bringing this up, you gotta think Rua is gonna have some knuckle imprints or some type of bruising after this fight, because Anderson hits like a ton of bricks.
Right.
Yeah. We're not talking like, Mark Hart, they're never blocking a leg kick. But it's one of those situations where Shogun's got to respect the power of Anderson here, because if he doesn't, it's going to be a very, very long fight for him. Not saying he has to drag out a 15-minute decision here, but he's got to be very mindful and very respectful if he has any chance of winning this fight.
I agree.
All right, well, let's move on to other fights on this card, including Matt Brown against Damian Maia on the prelim main event.
Interesting line on this fight. It's minus 300 Maia, plus 250 Brown. And in this case, you might actually get away with hashtag because Brazil.
Yeah, I believe it.
Mm-hmm. Although, when you talk about guys that hit like a ton of fucking bricks, that's Matt Brown. He has one punch man knockout power.
Mess with his jaw.
Yeah, piss him off in Subway or Four, but you're gonna pay the price.
Tobacco is for wussies. Oh, jeez, here we go. All right, Warlley Alves against Brian Barberena, Nate Marquardt, as we mentioned, against Thiago Santos, and Rob Font and John Lineker round out the main prelims on Fox Sports 1.
Alves minus 550, Barberena plus 425. Santos minus 360, Marquardt plus 300. Save your woes till I finish, please. Lineker minus 220, Font plus 180.
I could see Marquardt's odds. Alves Barberena seems a little high, and Lineker Font, I mean, it's a pick'em fight in my opinion.
I think Lineker is a favorite for a reason.
Okay. As far as the prelims on Fight Pass, Cummins, Nogueira, Medeiros, Trinaldo, Chagas, Moraes, and Mulcano against Lipkov.
Now, if it tells you anything about where Rogerio Nogueira, Little Nog, is in 2016, minus 250 for Cummins and plus 210 for Little Nog. And that's in Brazil.
Okay. So, let me get this straight.
Cummins
if I bet on Nogueira, Matt Brown, and Leslie Smith with a $20 bill,
you would probably take home a few $1,000s at the least.
Holy crap.
You're running to your sports book right now.
Oh, I'm tempted.
Yeah, well, there's a reason they call it winning a long shot for a reason.
I know, but Nogueira, if you would have told me Nogueira would be on a Fight Pass prelim, first of all.
Okay, that's why I said this is 2016.
Oh.
This is a completely different Little Nog. This is a guy that is, speaking of people that have, not done well in their recent fights. He's lost 4 out of his last 6. The only guys he beat are Rashad Evans, who is probably past his prime at this point too, and Tito Ortiz in what was one of his last fights in UFC.
Do you think he begged to be on the card and didn't care where he was on the card?
I think with only 4 fights in the last 5 years, probably.
And, Yancy Medeiros against Francisco Trinaldo, that could be a good fight.
Yeah, it has potential. And the odds makers have set a line of minus 225 for Trinaldo, plus 185 for Medeiros.
But if you're thinking that's all the shows this week, you are dead wrong.
No, we also have Bellator 154.
Phil Davis against King Mo. This is a sweet fight to put against a UFC show.
Yeah, it may get killed by UFC, we don't know, but if you were going to tell people you have to pay to watch one and you get the other for free, you might get some people to switch over and see a guy that was once a top 5 UFC light heavyweight against a guy who's a former Strikeforce world champion.
I'm looking forward to this fight. I mean, I'm kind of trying to not procrastinate, not trying to figure out game plans, so to speak, but you gotta think this fight goes into the 3rd round.
I wouldn't be surprised if it went the distance.
Yeah. I mean, I can't see this fight ending early.
Well, they're both outstanding wrestlers. That's why you don't suspect it's going to end early. But if it did end early, it would probably be King Mo by knockout, because King Mo got some serious power in his hands. He got that put an imprint of the cross on your chest kind of power. He can hit like a Mack truck. He's that hard hitting. But
Phil Davis said that when you're talking about King Mo, he does a lot of things wrong.
Well, I actually think what he said to me in the interview that you can read right now on MMA Mania is even more telling. Phil Davis said, I've already been in there with some of the hardest hitters at light heavyweight, and I came up smelling like roses. And when you look at Phil Davis's record, and you look at the fact that he beat guys like Glover Teixeira and Lyoto Machida, he's not bullshitting. He's been in there with guys that are capable of ending a fight and has beaten them over the course of the fight.
Well, you talked to both fighters, right?
Yes, I did.
Do you think there's a level of respect here as opposed to...
Sorry to start laughing before you finish that, but level of respect would not describe their feelings about each other.
Great, let me get the punchline. I just had to laugh.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself because Phil Davis thinks that King Mo is just completely full of crap, and King Mo thinks Phil Davis is cocky and overconfident.
Someone's gonna send me like a spit take video of Stevie just doing that after hearing me trying to do that joke.
Respect has nothing to do with this fight. This is the opposite of respect.
Yeah, no, this is, for a free show, at the very least, PVR it.
You know, this has been built up all the way going back to the Strikeforce Dynamite 1 tentpole show they had in San Jose. And ironically, it's come around full circle and they're back in San Jose now. This is what should have been the finals of that Dynamite 1 light heavyweight tournament that we never got to see because King Mo had to pull out with a rib injury.
Oh, man. So, I have to ask, who you got?
I think that Phil Davis makes a very compelling argument that he can stifle a hard hitter and turn it into his kind of fight. I really don't want to discount King Mo because he's on a 7-fight win streak. He won the Rising Heavyweight tournament when he went over to Japan, and that's impressive. And he was on his way to winning the light heavyweight tournament at Dynamite 1, and that's also impressive. There's just one thing that just consistently bothers me about King Mo. When I look at his record, when I go over his fights, it's that so often when it comes to a big fight at a big moment, for some reason, and I don't know if it's just he overtrains or he just gets in his own head and gets too psyched up and just takes a shit when it comes time, but he's lost in these big moments before. Now, arguably, I think he probably won a couple of these. Now, there's no saying he won the first fight with Emmanuel New. He'll admit that spinning back fist was deadly and on point. The second time, that fight went the distance. Could have been scored either way, in my opinion. But he came up short. And then with Quentin Jackson in the Bellator light heavyweight tournament, he came up short. Again, debatable. When it went to the judges, could have gone either way. He lost a unanimous decision. Some would say Rampage Jackson kind of had a little bit of the rub there because he was the bigger star. You can play conspiracy theorist if you want to. But I am saying there is a track record of, let's go all the way back to Fejao Cavalcante, a guy that I was absolutely convinced he would win against, and Fejao knocked him out in the third round and took the Strikeforce light heavyweight title from him. And that was the very first loss of King Mo's career. He was undefeated up to that point. So, again, what I'm trying to say is, I feel like Phil Davis is your big fight fighter. That he hasn't won every single fight, but he can win a big fight when he's in the main event or in a very high-profile position. And sometimes King Mo doesn't. And Phil Davis can take a shot and survive it, whereas King Mo doesn't always have the same track record. So I hate calling it either way because, man, I'd love to see these guys fight 10 times, and I think one would win 6 and the other would win 4. I think it'd be that close. But on this day, for this fight, I'm calling it for Phil Davis.
Oh, right. If I had to pick right now, like gun to my head, I don't know I'm going to say this. I'm just going to come out and say it. I got Davis winning by submission in the second round.
That's not impossible. If he gets it to the ground and King Mo can't use his wrestling to get on his feet again, it's certainly a possibility.
I just see Davis's wrestling being too strong here.
They're both great wrestlers, but...
Oh, absolutely.
But one thing Phil Davis said that sticks out like a sore thumb and almost made me laugh out loud when he said it is he noted that Linton Vassell is a British fighter and the British are no kind of wrestlers. That's not my words now. That's Mr. Wonderful saying this. He said,
oh boy,
the British, they aren't no kind of wrestlers. They don't have wrestling like we do. And he took King Mo off his feet. And he didn't just take him off his feet, he skied him. And that's the way Phil Davis put it. He implied that even though King Mo is supposed to be a great wrestler, look what this British guy could do. And basically by implying that said, imagine what I'm going to do to him.
Strap yourself in. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
It's going to be a fun one.
Oh, all right. So briefly, Stevie, I'll give you the floor. What else on this Bellator show has piqued your interest?
Well, it is now a 4-fight card with the withdrawal of Sergei Kharitonov. So we have to look at this from the perspective of what's left, because that's all there is to talk about on the rest of this card is what's left. And currently we have Evangelista Santos and Sadawad as the co-main event. With Cyborg, yes, that's the coincidence here. Both Cyborgs are fighting on the same night. No longer together as a couple, so it's probably a competition between the two of them to, like, say, who has bragging rights, who had the better performance on this night. And I'm going to give that to Chris Cyborg, because I still think, even though he won in an impressive manner against Brennan Ward, that was because Brennan Ward made a mistake and gave up the leg and let Evangelista Santos into an easy position to get a win. I don't think Sadawad's going to do the same thing. And you're probably going to say Sadawad is a lightweight. He's going up a weight class to face Evangelista Santos, but Santos is not very big for a welterweight. They are both 5'10". They're both a 72-inch reach. Well, actually, Awad is 73.5-inch reach, so he's got a little bit more range than Santos does. And Santos,
not by much.
Not by much, but enough. And I'll say enough because this is the man that knocked out Will Brooks. And not many people can say that. In fact, nobody can say that other than Sadawad. So, I'm going with Sadawad here because they match up well size-wise, and Santos has a fragile chin that Brennan Ward never got the chance to test. And Sadawad will. If
you ever want to, put a soundtrack to that speech you just did, you can always do the Any Given Sunday speech.
Yeah, it's the Any Given Sunday, but on this Sunday, Sadawad is going to do what Brennan Ward could not.
All right, well, that's all the show this week. I mean, we've been through a lot already. We did a lot of the news. We had to bump some stuff, unfortunately, and next week we've got more stuff to talk about in this show. A lot of shows to review from this weekend, but I do want to give a couple of quick shout-outs. Fort McMurray still suffering, very tragic story there. And another sad story, wrestling shows know about Bobby Heenan. He took a fall, he's in the hospital. And I just retweeted an address if you want to send a get well card to Bobby Heenan. The address is on my Twitter. But yeah, Fort Mac, there's lots of sites out there. I believe you can text, I think it's fires to, I forget the number, but redcross.ca, Red Cross, I'm assuming you can look it up, and simple text message sends $10 to that worthy cause there.
Well, just check out WWE.com's interview with Kevin Owens, because he and Tyler Breeze set up a fundraiser. Their goal was $30,000. They've already hit $41,000. So
yeah. All
that money is going to the Red Cross CA for local assistance to the people of Fort McMurray. So you know that that's a good cause. 100% of that money is going right where it's needed.
Well, for Stevie J, I'm Peter H., the Hardcore Canadian. Thanks for listening, and as I always say, never leave it to the judges. Good night, everybody.
See ya.
Come on, let's do
tinyurl.com/glove up. Thanks.